Hey, Jignesh. So this is a quick, brief video of the capacity interviews and the questions. We have a consultant. His name is Chip Haas, who's done this many times. He sent us sample questions we've been kind of prepping about. And then there's been some other videos from last year, interviews from last year, live interviews where I listened to and kind of gathered what's happening. So tomorrow is the charter board prep interview for us. Nick and Jay have met a couple times with me already. And we've gone through kind of their components. Really, where I want to focus on your background and expertise, and maybe in that first few minutes when we open up, you can say who you are and I'll introduce you, or you'll get a chance to introduce yourself, and then your background and what you bring to the board. Your background in business systems, finance, international, make sure the lending is done right, and the quarterly reporting and the annual audits and those kind of things. So I'm going to send you this, but I just wanted to go and give you some general updates on what to kind of focus on, because there's a lot here. But the role of the board is oversight, and you direct the superintendent, CEO, whatever you want to call it, which would be myself. And then I'm a check and balance between you and the operations of the school. So we've built in 4 systems that happen in the background at the campus level that get reported to the board on a regular basis. And the one we're going to really focus on with you is this oversight committee. And we meet quarterly as a board, and there'll be a report from our accounting firm and the school about finances, and then we do an annual audit that we purchase, and that report is blessed by us and then sent to the Department of Education in Texas. So this just kind of explains what our fiduciary duty is as a board, and we adopt board policies around finance, and you'll see some of that little more nuanced stuff later. Employee is a big issue. That we're a service-based business, so a lot of HR issues, and we're going to use ADP as our payroll company. And then our job is to onboard, train, monitor, and then work with our employees to get satisfactory employees. It's probably the biggest part of running a school or any business, really. We just talked about your managers and issues you're having. But one of the proudest things I've had, because when we do our bond financing, when we refinanced out of our initial developers' money, we're rated by Piper Jaffray, and I'm on the investor calls, and we're going to the market and selling to the large institutions. They're looking at your student retention, and they're looking at your employee retention. And the biggest part of my role as a CEO that I'm the most proud of is we had 89 to 91% teacher retention, and we're adding 125 teachers a year. So that means you got to land your culture, you got to land your hiring, you got to really create an environment, and you got to get the most out of your staff. So we do a heavy duty training. I just want you to see that, but there's a lot of professional development, more so I've ever seen in any kind of business I've ever been involved in. There's an academic reporting that comes back to the board, and this is all done with our staff at the campus level. We're monitoring how we're training our teachers, what our data tells us from an academic point of view in the classroom, and then all the curriculum we're designing, how it comes back up. So that's these 3 are basically right in here. So I just wanted you to kind of see, but we're really going to focus here. These 2 are more on culture, what's happening with our culture and our parents and those kind of things. I've got some general things that Nick's going to answer. You can kind of cruise through those. There's some frameworks that are nationally recognized that we're using to monitor and watch. I mean, this is a government thing, so there's lots of stuff that's best practices that we're going to be bringing in. Board and officer training, some protocols around that, which I'll do with you guys. It's pretty straightforward. And we're looking for governance. So the 3 big areas the board's focused on: academics, making sure we do have a good quality school with rigor; governance, which is make sure we're replenishing ourselves and holding ourselves accountable, and the superintendent accountable; and finance. Those are the 3 big areas we want to focus on. I included an org chart, so you have an understanding there's those 3 things: academic, finance, and governance. Here's the parent group that reports to us once a year on the culture. Here's my role. We hire a principal, all the staff below. We use outside services. There's accounting and auditing. So there's an annual audit, and then we have an accounting firm that kind of looks over what's happening at the campus level. So the big thing is we're going to be buying a building, and we're going to be going through some financial pieces. And I'd like to bring to you all 3 or 4 options for financing so that we can pick the right one and don't make a mistake on that, which I have done in the past in our early schools. Just a general operational puzzle, just so you get a sense of the complication that's happening behind the scenes. Now, the rest of this is just for your edification, just to kind of have a background. We've talked about a lot of this, but the proposed model, if it comes up, or if you get a chance to talk about, you are a resident of Pearland, and that's important. You're part of the community. and you represent that community, and you have kids in the community. And this is the type of school we've talked about this, you and I, about character development and rigor and discipline and uniforms and those kind of things. So the proposed model, and these are the important components of what we do: classical ed, which is the full liberal arts education. So math is as important as music, art is important as English, everything's blended. Then diverse by design. So this was in their last cycle, and basically what we're doing by locating our school roughly here, we're blending the socioeconomic neighborhoods of Pearland, Alvin, and South Houston. South Houston's in total failure mode, so having that blend is good for wealthy families and parents and poor families and parents, because it exposes everybody to each other. And the third component is social emotional learning. That's another word for character development. And that's blended through the whole thing, and it's super important. And this is what you and I had talked about as to what's important for you as a family. A little bit about the school background, where we're putting it, whatnot. Then what I might familiarize yourself with is our mission and vision, and that's here. And I put in red the big parts of what's important. I think as we built our mission: diverse scholar population. Again, we're blending socioeconomic virtues and values. Civic responsibility, and partnering with the parents. So just then these next few, just to refresh you of what classical ed is and how it's nuanced, and I won't go into this with you, and then this character ed component, which we talk about, is pretty big deal. And this is what I've done is I've combed through the available research and built a 10-point plan of how to implement social emotional learning into a school. Kind of new, not many people are doing this, but everybody loves the idea of social and emotional, but how do you execute upon it? And that's what this is. Now, this next part is for me, and it's my notes, and it's right from the application. It's kind of in the weeds, and I'm going to probably end up talking 90% of the time of this thing. So in the beginning stage, if you can have just introduction and who your background is and what your role will be and how important this is to you as a parent and as a member of the community. Jay and Nick have their little roles. We got 10 minutes to open up in, then they're going to go into questions. And there's a ton of questions because there's going to be probably 8 or 10 people on the board on the interview panel that have different responsibilities. And I'll be fielding behind you guys most of the questions. I just don't want to be talking all the time. So these are my notes. You can cruise through them, but in particular, I wanted to direct your attention to where it says governance here, the finance committee. Now, this is right from the application, talks about what the finance committee will do. Balance sheets, budgets versus actual, oversight, governing board, pick the auditor, how the auditor gets, how often the audit happens, what's the responsibilities. We're going to set up a bunch of policies, like this school can't purchase anything over $5,000 until it goes to the board for approval. You can see what those are. So again, this might be too in the weeds for the questions you might get in that short time you're with us. But I just want you to know behind the scenes, I'm ready to kind of jump in and explain the nuances of all this stuff. So really, that's the big component I wanted you to look at, and cruise through if you feel like you need to. I'm going to send you another whole bunch of stuff on governance that I prepped another board I'm working with out in Florida on that might give you just background. But really, you're going to land your experience and expertise, what you lend to the board, your community wise. And just that you have a lot of credibility and experience in the business world, because you're the guy that kind of has that in our board, and you're going to be in an oversight role of that. So appreciate all this. I understand tomorrow doesn't work, but at 3 o'clock on Thursday, the 6th, we're all going to meet. To be Jay, me, you, and Nick. So it's our small team. We're just going to prep and go over it. Want to have you guys have some FaceTime so you kind of know each other as we get into this interview situation. And then the final interview, and I know you're working that day, is Tuesday. And I'll send you the links, and as much as I can get you there, great. In the beginning, awesome. And I'll set it up that you have to leave. But again, I'm prepared to go deep and wide into this, and I've done it a bunch of times. But the more I can show credibility and have you guys involved, the better. And you guys are so talented that I want to really kind of leverage that. So hopefully that gives you a sense of what we're doing. I know it's going to be a crash course, but we can handle it. Thanks again. I appreciate everything.